Welcome to the Actionable ESG talk series brought to you by AKFI, the Actionable Knowledge Foundational Institute, the world's first non-profit industry consortium committed to bridging the gap between ESG, sustainability, and digital transformation, which of course includes AI. Actionable ESG talks. The series bring together great minds to discuss the current and the future state of ESG, sustainability, and digital transformation. I'm delighted to be here with our guest and allow me to make a quick introduction. Joe McDonald is the founder and chief energy regenerative and circularity officer at Urban A&O, where he advised and organizations on regenerative architecture, net zero strategy, and climate responsiveness developments. And Joe is a licensed architect with international credentials. He integrates research, design, and business strategy to help clients navigate energy transition, carbon regulations, and resilient infrastructure. Welcome, Joe. And without any further ado, I would like to kick it off with a question that usually we ask our guests, and it's about sustainability trends. And based on your experience, which trends are the most influential in corporate strategy, capital allocation, and reporting through the next 4 years, 2030?
To 2030. Thanks for the question. Of course, I have lots of thoughts on that. So I'll say I'll begin by saying that. The most important shift that I see through 2030 is not the continued expansion of ESG language, but the tightening of materiality. So for several years, ESG has functioned as a broad classificatory vocabulary for capital markets, ratings, and disclosure. So now that phase is now giving way to something more precise and exacting. The real question is no longer how many sustainability topics an organization can reference, but which of them are genuinely material to strategy, capital deployment, operations, and reporting credibility. In that respect, the central divide in the field now seems to be between single materiality and double materiality. So if we look to the ISSB framework under IFRS S1 and S2, it's designed as a global baseline for sustainability related to financial disclosure to capital markets. By contrast, the ESRS framework in Europe is built simply on double materiality. So put simply, double materiality means asking two questions at once. First, how is the sustainability issue affecting a company financially? And second, how is the company itself materially affecting people and the environment? A matter that therefore can be material because it creates financial risk or opportunity for the firm, because the firm impacts on the world are significant, or because both are true. So in my view, the double materiality is the more serious and strategic lens, even if financial materiality remains the global disclosure baseline for investors. Investors, that's what they're interested in. But I would say that because double materiality captures both outside exposure and inside out consequence. So outside in exposure, an inside-out consequence. It forces management to look beyond what is immediately priced by markets and to examine the underlying impacts, dependencies, and externalities that often become tomorrow's financial risks. So things like, environmental degradation, labor instability, community harm, biodiversity pressure, water stress, supply chain fragility, do not remain ethical side issues indefinitely. They migrate into regulation, litigation, insurance pricing, permit risk, costs of capital, and asset value. For that reason, I do not see double materiality as a European reporting burden that we endure. I see it more as an intelligent management framework for long horizon corporate decision making. At the same time, serious companies still need to translate that broader understanding into concise, investor relevant disclosure because that is how capital markets continue to assess sustainability related financial exposure. So, in practical terms, I see four trends shaping corporate strategy and reporting through 2030. First, reporting systems will continue to consolidate around decisions useful, materiality, rather than disclosure volume. Second, Europe is moving toward simplification and rescoping, but not abandonment of sustainability reporting requirements.
Totally.
Yeah, the direction of travel toward a more focused and less administratively burdensome regime is occurring. It's not a retreat from sustainability disclosure altogether. Third, capital allocations is shifting decisively towards electricity systems, grids, storage, electrification, and industrial resilience. The energy transition is no longer just a climate story. It is now a competitiveness, security, and infrastructure story. The IEA projects globally energy investment at around USD about 3.3 trillion in 2025, with about 2.2 trillion USD going to clean energy technologies and infrastructure, while electricity sector investment alone is set to reach around 1.5 trillion USD, or roughly 50% higher than spending on bringing fossil fuels to market, which is a great sign. Fourth, the next credibility threshold for me would be assurance grade operational data. Markets and regulators are becoming less interested in aspiration heavy narrative reporting and more interested in verifiable, location specific, decision useful evidence that connects sustainability claims to asset performance and capital allocation. So, my answer in the clearest form would be this. Through 2030, the winning organizations will not be the ones with the most elaborate ESG vocabulary. They will be the ones capable of operating in both registers at once. They will use double materiality to understand real system impacts for long duration strategic risk, while also translating that understanding into disciplined, auditable, investor relevant disclosure. That is where ESG becomes serious, not as a rhetoric, but as a framework for capital discipline, infrastructure, reality, and measurable performance.
Well, thank you, Joe. Um, we'll take a whole, you know, interview to unpack all the elements. So let me try. First thing, we've seen the role of double materiality in financial reporting becoming central to the European Union changes to the regulations. As they change the regulations to be administered, if you want, country by country in the European Union, we see the leverage being moved to the financial part, the double materiality, as you very well and very completely explain how it works, we've seen it moving to the financial industry in the form of risk management, risk in bonds, risk in investments, risk in insurance, which we experience. By the way, we should experience a lot of risk reallocation, if you want, to environmental forces in the US. Let's see, California with fires and so on, floods in different parts of the US, where the financial industry, the insurance industry in particular, which is super sensitive to risk, it's saying, okay, we don't want only to read your ESG report or sustainability report, as you said, on your aspirations. What do you do? What do you do to mitigate our risk, our financial risk in investing in your company or insuring your company? So I think we see a lot of change in 2026 and of course continuing in 2030 on the way the insurance or the financial industry gains, if you want, a front seat. And I'll finish the question with how much of this is really based on real-time reporting as opposed to annual, ESG, end of the year kind of financial reporting, as you said, with a perfect ESG language or sustainability language, but thin financial impact content.
Yes, I mean, remember that there was a time when managing directors of ESG were very busy. That you would hear, oh, it's reporting. It's the reporting period for this year. That no longer is the case. Because of because of AI and because of our access to frankly, daily data. We are modeling these things in real time. And your example uh, uh, um, uh, of Manuel of insurance is one of the best examples possible. So for the fires in California, the floods in
Louisiana, New York City, New York, and so on and so on.
yeah, and also, for example, Florida. Florida is a great example. Texas is a great example because of uh, they have completely reconfigured their building codes, for example, and climate change is real. And so this all has to be taken into account when we are when we do deliver a report. So I find that 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 reporting period is now constantly in flux. It's something that uh, is not an annual reporting period. It's occurring in real time, and therefore so much you know I would say that, if an investor or if a board called on an ESG report, the organization needs to be able to deliver that report upon request, which I find fascinating. Yeah.
Absolutely. Apply for a loan is not, okay, wait to the end of the year to see what you're reporting, is
Yeah.
you submit the application, you're missing the environmental assessment. Please add it before you consider your application, sir or madam. And
Yeah,
this is it.
precisely. Yeah.
And we talked about geospatial risk intelligence, and this sort of goes in this real-time component, right? Now you turn the table around. It's not only a
for a bit.
governmental agency or a regulator asking you for the reports, but they're asking what's your situation now, here and now, actually, in space and in time.
Right. Do you want to, should we move on to geospatial
Sure.
risk
Yes,
intelligence?
yes. Let's consider because it really dovetails in the real-time aspect of collecting data and using intelligence.
Precisely, precisely. And we have those tools at hand right now. So geospatial risk intelligence, uh, that's what that is what prevents sustainability from collapsing into abstraction, or ESG from collapsing into abstraction. Without it, it's just one is just left with a generalized climate narrative, detached from actual terrain, infrastructure, jurisdiction, resource dependence, corridor vulnerability, all the things we're talking about, Manuel, and human settlement patterns. So, in other words, one can report extensively and still understand very, very little. So the role of geospatial intelligence is to convert broad sustainability ambition into spatially differentiated exposure. It's all about exposure, so that risk can be assessed not only in sectoral or corporate terms, but in terms of where systems are physically located, which infrastructures they rely upon, and how their disruptions propagate through those infrastructures over time. I'll give you a great, we're living it right now. The recent disruption of the Strait of Hormuz is an excellent example. The EIA March 10th, 2026 outlook noted that Brent crude rose to 94. It rose higher than that, roughly 50% above the beginning of the year, as shipments through the strait fell, and some Middle Eastern production was just simply shut in. So the agency's forecasts explicitly assumed that the effective closure of the strait would reduce production further in the coming weeks before any gradual normalization. That is precisely the type of event geospatial risk intelligence is designed to illuminate. It shows that sustainability cannot be evaluated solely through the organizational level emissions or policy statements. It must account for choke points, energy corridors, maritime dependencies, commodity routing, the territorial concentration of risk. In that sense, geospatial intelligence makes sustainability measurable, because it makes exposure legible in spatial terms, which is how real world systems fail. So well, moving on, if we move on to
Sure,
the built
please.
environment, my
Yes.
arena, this has direct
And give us all the insights you
design.
would like, please.
Yeah, I mean, so for us, it has direct design and planning and implications. So here at Urban A&O, that line of thinking is already embedded in district scale and infrastructure-led work, including the work we do in smart cities, campus, port, logistics, energy-linked developments where climate, access, energy, land use, long-range resilience must be modeled together rather than sequentially. Um, so Urban A&O's work on larger scale district planning, advanced energy systems, and data-driven development strategy reflects exactly that orientation. That's exactly what we do uh, here at Urban A&O.
And how do you address the? Uh, let me go on a side for a second. But one of the topics I'm instructing at Cornell, it's system thinking.
Yes.
And in the system thinking, you're describing one of the most complex environments: physical, human, social. Of course, energy is maybe the common denominator. then it splits in different forms of energy and systems. How do you manage this complexity? That seems almost a Wizard of the Oz kind of domain.
It is that kind of domain, and so because there are so many variables that are contributing and impacting the systems. Of course, we live in a world now where systems thinking is driving all of our decision making, and of course. It all comes back to risk mitigation, risk management, risk avoidance. And so how do you address that not in abstract terms, but with real-time tools? This is where we find AI comes in because it is able to uh, uh, accommodate multiple disparate inputs and make sense of it. And so, you know, it's not just AI. It's the intelligent use of AI, and it's AI, of course, AI is never going to replace uh, the is never going to replace the architect, is never going to replace the investor, but it is going to make our decisions so much more informed and so much more on point, timely, and I think without it, we live in such a world of volatility that you're if you I know you're teaching system thinking at Cornell, and they're lucky to have you because without system thinking, we simply can't operate in this kind of world.
Absolutely. And I'll give you a topic a little bit more contained if you want, but how we link carbon, energy, which of course we talked already a little bit about fossil fuels, but we didn't quite touch on renewables and systems of accountability, because these are sort of the underpinning elements of A, sustainability, and B, the function of the smart cities, smart areas. We call it smart city, right?
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah. Uh, are we moving on to carbon, energy, and systems
Yes,
accountability?
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah. Well, this is very interesting because as the built environment starts to articulate the difference between embodied carbon and operational carbon, well, okay, and life cycle analysis. Well, okay, that all sounds very responsible, right? Well. Embodied carbon, let's talk about how it enters
Okay.
the P&L. Like, let's get right down to brass tacks here. So it enters the P&L the moment that we stop treating it as a moral category and start recognizing it as a design, procurement, logistics, finance variable. It affects material specification, transport intensity, fabrication geography, sequencing, substitution risk, insurance exposure, installation time, maintenance burden, replacement cycles, and future retrofit liability. So I just rattled off a list of things that all of which are equally important. So in other words, embodied carbon is never only about carbon. It is also about cost structure, timeline reliability, asset quality under future constraints. So that means that we need to a system thinking where we're thinking into the future. So if a project team, let's say, specifies steel, concrete, the building envelope, MEP assemblies, without understanding the emissions profile of those choices in relation to availability, shipping, volatility, and replacement logic, it is not practicing sustainable design. It is simply externalizing risk and projecting it into the future, which is a very dangerous strategy. So I want to move on to circularity because circularity is in my I'm the chief energy and regenerative circularity officer at Urban A&O. So circularity, I live in that world.
Just
Circularity.
before we move to that, I wanted to make an observation on what you said, and the quote unquote the laundry list, but the element which came to my mind as you're going through that is we building a home or a business, a multi-level building. And we're building it according to current codes, to current sustainability requirements, and so on. But the building lasts 50, 80 years, whatever is in the project. Do the sustainability rules and so on will change? Yes, because we've seen already examples in Northern Europe where the carbon captured in the building has to be accounted for. And that if that becomes a requirement later in the life of the building, you assign a risk, if you want, in the building that is not even materialized in the first phase of the design, if I understood correctly.
Well, so if we were to project carbon capture within the building uh, 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 during operational carbon, um, um, it that remains a variable. So if we are, I'm not against it. I'm all for it. But the way the methodology of that carbon capture, it has to hold water. It has to
Uh,
be. It can't be. You know the whole CCUS, carbon capture, utilization and storage. I'm very, very wary of that as a tool used uh, in many different industries. And it's this carbon accounting, carbon capture and storage. It's you know. It's for me it's a kind of a last grasp because we simply do not know. There may be a time in the near future, Manuel, where we are able to apply data. We'll be able to project data that is truly accurate and be able to say, yeah, over the course of the life of the building, this is how much carbon is going to be captured. I don't think we're there yet, but that's just my thoughts. Yeah.
No, no, thank you very much. And I was a little bit more narrow in my question. I was thinking the carbon that is just captured during the construction phase. But uh, uh, we, I would like to leave it for a future debate on this. Again, this is just adding to the complexity of the business of sustainability and double materiality and the impact on finance and so on, which you very well pointed to, Joe. But let's go to circular economy. And one of the questions I get frequently is, what how is it related to the recycling? Because it sounds like almost the same, circular recycling sounds a circular process, but it is not, and I think both know. So please educate us.